The story behind the gaze. Why did Jimin avoid Jungkook's eyes? In the midst of the frenetic world of Korean entertainment that is full of highlights, there is a story that is almost inaudible, yet so deeply felt. Not an ordinary love story, nor a conflict story that is deliberately packaged to attract media attention. It's about two best friends, two group mates who have been passing the time together for years, and now a distance is forming between them. Jimin and Jungkook, two big names from BTS, are slowly starting to look different. Not because of a visual or stylistic change, but because of a change in the way they looked at each other, or rather, no longer looked at each other. The ARMY keenly captured that detail. In various moments, especially at events or brief interactions leaked from the military environment, they noticed how Jimin seemed to always avoid eye contact with Jungkook. Something that used to be so natural and full of warmth is now a gesture that is difficult not to notice. For loyal BTS fans, Jimin and Jungkook's closeness is nothing new. Since the debut, they have often been seen together, joking, supporting each other, and even not averse to showing attention in the most frank form. However, that closeness slowly began to dim. There wasn't one big moment that was the trigger, but as the dew slowly evaporated, something between them began to change. One of the turning points that many believe happened a few weeks before both were drafted into the army. In an off-cam interview, a staff member mentioned that Jimin and Jungkook had engaged in a serious conversation. It doesn't sound angry, but emotionally stressful. After that moment, their interaction began to decline dramatically. The eyes are the windows to the heart, as the saying goes. For Jimin, maybe that's why he can't look at Jungkook. Not out of hate, not out of anger, but for fear of what it will look like if they re-meet. Glance. Probably disappointed, probably regret, or it could be something more complicated. A love that has no place. There is speculation that during this time, Jimin harbored a deeper sense of Jungkook. But he knew delivering it directly could damage the bond they had built. So he chose silence. Keep everything to yourself. But as Jungkook begins to show signs that he may be aware of, or may even have similar feelings, Jimin withdraws. Avoidance becomes a way to survive. A way to still keep a safe distance from larger wounds. While Jimin prefers not to stare, Jungkook looks the other way. He seemed to steal glances often, trying to catch Jimin's eye on various occasions. Not as a form of coercion, but as if he wanted to say something without a word. Some of Jungkook's teammates said he was frustrated after training sessions, sitting alone and staring out the window for hours. He is known as a strong figure, but his emotions lately are easier to read. It's like carrying a burden that can't be shared with anyone. One of the rumors circulating in close circles mentioned that Jimin wrote a letter to Jungkook. The letter was said to contain everything in his heart about feelings, about fears, and about the reason why he could no longer see Jungkook's eyes. However, the letter was never given. Jimin tore it apart that night, letting the paper crumble like his own feelings. The letter that was never sent became a symbol of all things unspoken. All the truth that only exists in the heart, but never given the opportunity to live in the real world. The most heartbreaking moment occurred when one of the songs sung by Jungkook at the internal military service night was played back in a reflection session. The song is a love song about loss and unfinished sense. And when the song played, everyone saw Jimin lowered his head in silence, then quickly left the room. Some witnesses said he wiped away tears quickly before disappearing in the shadow of the barracks. That was the moment that made it all the more clear to observers. The taste had not yet died out, just hidden. And the more it is suppressed, the more painful it is. Armies around the world certainly hope. They do not demand explanations, nor do they demand romance. They just want the two people who have given them so much strength and love to be able to heal each other, forgive each other, understand each other, and maybe rediscover each other's path to being together, in whatever form it may be, because sometimes a single look can solve thousands of questions. And if one day Jimin looks Jungkook in the eye again, maybe that's when we'll know that love, friendship, and wounds can coexist, and be healed together. And until that time comes, the story behind this gaze will live on, in the hearts of the army who believe that something sincere will never be completely lost. However, time goes on. A shocking moment occurred in an internal military music event where the soldiers were given the opportunity to showcase their artistic talents. Jungkook, known for his golden voice, chose to sing a song of his own creation. The song has no official title, but eyewitnesses described it as a song for someone who no longer dares to stare. The lyrics are full of emotions. I looked for your eyes in the dark, but you turned the other way. I'm still standing where we last spoke alone, waiting for your tone of voice. If my gaze hurts you, then I will turn away, but don't go too far. Many believe this song was written for Jimin. Some members of the military unit said that during Jungkook's singing, his eyes filled with tears. He didn't even greet the audience after the performance, just walked slowly off the stage, looking down in silence. And even more surprising, according to the anonymous testimony of one of the instructors, Jimin was present in the room that night. Sitting in the back row, with a tense face and shoulders that never stop moving slowly, like someone who is holding their breath so long not to fall. After the show was over, Jimin did not immediately return to his room. He walked alone to a small forest behind the headquarters, an area often used as a place of reflection for soldiers. A close friend who happened to pass by said that Jimin stood for a long time near a large tree, looking up at the sky, before finally sitting down and leaning his head against the trunk, crying. The cry is not a scream, not even anger, but some kind of painful relief. It was as if all the defenses he had built up during this time had finally cracked. He tried to hide it, but in the end, the wound in his heart found a way out. And everything spilled out in silence like a night rain that came without thunder. 2 days after that moment, by chance, or perhaps fate, Jimin and Jungkook met in a small military canteen, just the two of them. There was no one else at the time, and even the security cameras were being damaged due to maintenance. There is no exact information about what they were talking about. But based on the report of a person who passed by in the hallway and accidentally heard a quiet voice from inside, only one sentence was clearly heard. I'm afraid to lose you, but more afraid to hurt you. It's not clear who said that, but that sentence alone was enough to make the whole speculation among fans even stronger. A few days after the meeting, a surprising moment occurred when a small ceremony was held inside the camp. Jungkook and Jimin stood in the same row, and for the first time, they looked at each other. Not a full-length drama, not even an angry or awkward look, but just one brief look, accompanied by a small smile from Jungkook and a slight nod from Jimin. That's all. But for those who pay attention, it means everything. It was a gesture of peace. The gesture that although they have not been able to finish everything, but they are willing to start opening the door back. From that day on, the aura between them slowly changed. It's not as warm as it used to be, but it's not freezing anymore. There was a glimmer of hope in Jimin's eyes. There was a softer firmness in Jungkook's step. And most importantly, they no longer completely avoid each other. The army began to feel the change. The photos taken secretly show the two smiling in the same place, although not yet standing side by side. But the smile is enough, because behind the smile that was empty before, now there is hope. What happened between Jimin and Jungkook wasn't just about love, friendship, or old wounds. It's about the courage to face one's own feelings, about the vulnerability that arises behind the spotlight of the stage and fame, and about how two hearts that understand each other can find their way back, even in silence. Because sometimes, what is not spoken is deeply embedded, and when they finally dare to look again, the world knows this is not the end. This is the beginning of a new chapter full of hope. The army will continue to support them no matter where the story goes. Because true love, in any form, is worth fighting for, and it is in that one look that this story finally finds the light at the end of the wound.